Hello, internet friends. My name is Bay, and welcome to the Battle for Azeroth Alpha and the first past look at the Havoc Demon Hunter. And this video is going to have a lot of early talking before I get into any gameplay, due to the fact that that section of this video is going to have to be a little bit of waiting around and discussion based on waiting on the Metamorphosis cooldown, even though I don't have to show you what it looks like to be in meta, because you know what it is, because you play Havoc, or you know about Havoc and how it works. But that, of course, is still more what we'll get into in this video. This was bordering on the 4-hour window or so where I did with Shadow Priest, mostly because I'm a total noob when it comes to Shadow Priest, so I had a lot of stuff to figure out. But the 4 hours for Havoc was a lot of theoretical discussion and back and forth with chat, due to the fact that the popularity of this spec is obviously risen over the course of Legion, because it's the new hotness, right? And because I've also played Havoc for all 3 splits of all the raiding I have done with my guild across all the heroics into mythics for all of this expansion. So I know more about this spec because I played Melee for over 10 years, and this is the first one that I've really played at a full expansion-long split rate. But if you want to watch the entire testing VOD of all the things that we did go over, of course, it'll be uploaded here to YouTube. You can check that out when it happens. And then if you want to keep up to date on all the first pass and second pass and islands and warfronts, all that stuff testing here on the channel, you can go subscribe right down there to the YouTube channel and check out the video description box for my other socials, like this adorable Illidan shirt that Fabelina made that I'm wearing only on purpose because I'm testing Havoc, and this is Illidan, and he's also a demon hunter. And you follow the merch link, you can go check those out. And all those kind of incentives and stuff like that, those supporting parts from you guys to me, makes me make more stuff like this. Fabelina is actually working on a huge shirt for me right now, which will be out soon. But Havoc Demon Hunter has another one of the core of the class hasn't changed. Overall, though, all the talents have been shifted and moved. And out of any spec I've tested so far, Shadow Priest, again, and Havoc have some of the most specific talent layouts where just a certain cookie cutter build just hooks together the right way. So, and that's just how Havoc works. On live right now, a lot of Havoc is just whatever your set bonus are, that's the build you play. And your set bonus plus legendaries equal the build you play for a whole tier or 2 tiers or whatever have you. And that, because that's gone, you can hopefully spec to the situation, to the type of encounter you're doing, or to the play style, barring some numbers we'll see, of how you want to play Havoc. So I'll go through all the core rotational bits here. The biggest first thing that should have happened in Legion is that you actually have Torment now, which is your taunt. So you can actually peel in dungeons and taunt things off of your tank if they're about to die, or you could like taunt and Fel Rush away, or taunt something off of your healer or whatever, or stray mobs, something like that. So you actually have Torment now. It's a little tiny improvement to your utility toolkit, just a little bit, but it's still there. Because every other class in the game that has a spec that's a DPS spec, but one of their specs is a tank, has a taunt. Monks, warriors, paladins, right? Druids, etc. But for some reason, Havoc was forgotten. But there it is. So you also have Chaos Brand, which is this new passive where your chaos damage, even though that's not totally true because your auto attacks and stuff work, will brand the target for a minute. It keeps refreshing every 4 or 5 seconds anyway, so it's up forever as long as you're attacking the target, to take 5% increased magic damage. Only Demon Hunters have Chaos Brand. Only Monks have Mystic Touch, which is the same thing, but for physical damage. No Rogues has anything, nothing else. It's just Demon Hunters, the 2 specs, and Monks, the 3 specs. That's it. So we'll see how that balances out. I actually had a dev interview at PAX recently where I talked about this kind of stuff, and they're not worried about it, but we'll see. You can go check out that interview here on the channel if you'd like as well. Of course, Double Jump is still here. Your Mastery still remains the same, where it's a Chaos Damage amp, and roughly half of that is a Movement Speed amp. Shattered Souls remains unchanged, so the Soul Fragment mechanic is the quarter health heal after you kill something, and the Soul Fragment from a demon is a 20% damage amp for 15 seconds. That remains unchanged. It's the same. You also have some cooldown changes, which are kind of weird. So Throw Glaive's cooldown base was reduced by a second. I don't know. Okay. Imprison shares the cooldown change that the monks receive for their similar cooldown for CC, where it's a minute-long cooldown, but lasts for a minute. So their pins and needles has the same effect, right? Still works on demons, beasts, humanoids, but it's a minute cooldown up from 15 seconds. So using Imprison properly and not being broken early will be even more impactful, so don't break Imprison. Stop cross-dotting and cleaving, you madmen. Just calm down. We also had Metamorphosis, has 4-minute base cooldown. That is 5 minutes on live, and of course you have your artifact traits that reduce it, but they sort of cake those in, so it's a 4-minute cooldown baseline now. They also did reduce the haste bonus remains 25%, but the leech was nerfed from 30 to 20. Not really a nerf though, it's mostly just a squishing of how the game's stats are working, but more on the talent combinations and that later. You will not be 100% leech anymore, I'm sorry, unless there's a PvP talent that you can do that, but right now it's nothing. You can ignore all of the highlighted talents in the book here because those are of course talents. Vengeful Retreat remains the same, still a 70% snare, which is kind of ridiculous. Remember, there's a whole lot of baseline changes to how CC works in BFA. Having a AoE 70% snare is still huge. So Throglaive still bounces to 2 additional targets within 10 yards. Spectral Sight remains unchanged. You still have Glide, of course. Fel Rush, unchanged. And here's a big one, though. So I-Beam. I-Beam's Fury cost, let me pull my notes over here. I-Beam's Fury cost was reduced to 30, down from 50. The cooldown reduced to 30 seconds, down from 45 seconds. The channel time remains 2 seconds or 3 seconds with the talent reduced by haste. Always crits on each hit, but the key part here is your primary target takes 100% or double damage. That means that, and yes, we've run some primary alpha numbers. You can go over all that stuff in the VOD if you'd like. I-Beam is used more or less on cooldown on single target. During the channel of I-Beam, which is roughly 2 globals, it always does more damage than 2 Chaos Strikes. In and out of meta. It's the same, right? Even in Metamorphosis, actually, it does more damage because it casts faster. And because of the 30 Fury cost for the 2 globals, it works out to be more damage per Fury spent, as the current math states. So if you've missed I-Beaming on single target and always felt, like I did, that it was really weird that you didn't I-Beam on single target, such an iconic ability, that has been squelched. Blizzard fixed it, so it still has the use now primarily to be used as this 30-second rotational cooldown, which more on talent combinations of that later. Consume Magic had its range reduced to 10 yards, down from 20 yards, as a slight nerf to your ranged interrupt, which is kind of, it'll hurt a little bit. It'll hurt more, I think, for tanks, because you're way mobile on Havoc. You just run around or Vengeful Retreat or whatever and get that interrupt off. But for tanks, you kind of gotta like stand still, and you can't interrupt things that are farther away from you to pull them in anymore. So that kind of hurts, but for you, it won't really matter too much. Here's another big change. Chaos Strike lost its crit scaling. Totally gone. It now has a baseline 40%, as the current math goes, a 40% chance on every single use to refund 20 Fury. That basically just means that it has a 40% crit synergy, and it's unchanged. That's it. So it'll feel the same as it does on live, but obviously if you're a Havoc Demon Hunter on live and you're geared to the teeth and you've got like 60% crit, you obviously see a super different ebb and flow to how much you can just spam Chaos Striker Annihilation. That's obviously getting baselined to be a bit more consistent across the board, because it's basically made into a Divine Purpose style, just chance to equal refund. And probably the biggest baseline change that many of you are probably going to be like, ugh, outside of I-Beam and Chaos Strike, is the change to Chaos Nova. No longer is a stun. It's a 5-second AoE disorient that breaks on damage. Still costs 30 Fury, 1 minute cooldown base. However, the overwhelming power artifact trait that has the chance to shatter off lesser fragments is baselined. So they sort of took some power away and then put a little bit of power back in a different way. Still being a disorient makes it a AoE interrupt regardless. If the target is able to be disoriented, it will still be disoriented even for that split half a moment where the dot will tick and then it'll come out of the disorient. It'll still interrupt their cast, so it still is useful, but no longer a stun. If you're new to this and haven't heard this before, a lot of these stun manic stacking craziness in Legion has been removed. A lot of stuns have been lowered, increased in cooldown, less effective, etc. across the board. Blur still remains the same, and Blade Dance has the cooldown reduced, just like Throw Glaive, from 10 seconds to 9 seconds, which it might fit better into haste scaling over the course of your rotation, but it also, because you did lose, you're losing the Fury of, what's it called? Yeah, the Fury of the Illidari, and of course you're losing the Rage of the Illidari. Those are both gone. That they've lowered the base cooldowns of your 2 AoE-ish abilities, I guess, even though Throw Glaive's AoE is really bad. It's just not really good. It's mostly for a range pulling tool, but that is how it has happened so far in the alpha. And talents that are removed, I'll pop up the talent list here real quick. There are some that have been removed, and we'll start going through all of these before we actually get into the gameplay. So Prepared is gone in its current iteration on live. Bloodlet's gone. Chaos Blades is gone. Thank you. Chaos Blades was good, but it was really boring and really strong, and all the mastery snapshotting BS that followed around Chaos Blades, the whole expansion that had to keep being, it's just gone. it's just gone, okay? Chaos Cleave is gone, because that was fun. Demon Reborn also removed. So, I'm going to jump downstairs and go over the first little talent build that is a little bit more how you play the Demon Hunter, at least for the majority of this expansion. So the build that a lot of people like the most, which is the one that came up at the end of tier 20 and tier 20, or end of tier 19 into tier 20, was the super burst window, everything cared about meta, ring, and shoulder build, which is a lot of fun. Not the new helm ring build that's out right now. So we're gonna work from the bottom up here, but I'm gonna go over all the talents and how they have moved around. So Fel Blade remains the same. It still does fire damage, but they buffed the Fury generation to be 50, which is a lot. Demonic Appetite remains here. The fragment spawning system is now RPPM. I'm not sure what the RPPM is exactly yet, but it's no longer a chance, but it is a RPPM chance. So you can only have so many soul fragments up, and you cannot really pool them the same way because of how the RPPM works. Blind Fury remains unchanged. However, because you're now back to 100 Fury, you're going to have an interesting time always capping whenever you hit a I-beam, which is fine, but hopefully they'll make some adjustments and change that so that you're not always capping, but we'll see how that works out when they do numbers pass. And again, don't worry about the numbers on this dummy. It takes 100,000% damage, but it just looks fun. So that's Blind Fury. This is these top 2 tiers are all about how you build your Fury. You have Immolation Aura now, which is new to Havoc. However, Havoc's version is different. It's still initial fire damage and then a AoE fire damage around. Long cooldown compared to Vengeance's version, but it generates 80 Fury over 10 seconds. 80 Fury over 10 seconds. And in some of these builds we'll go through today, it feels pretty good. The opening point about Demon Blades, either you love this or you hated it. Demon Blades in its current incarnation on the alpha is essentially a dead talent, because it is still balanced around the higher stats you have and the traits you have on live, especially the ring. First off, the tooltip is incomplete, and I hope they fix the tooltip and actually put the damage range and the Fury generation range on the tooltip. Secondly, the fact that it's 60% still means that you can very much just stand here and never generate Fury. We're almost ready. Oh, we can Chaos Strike now. Oh, we can do it again. And again. Throw an I-beam in there. So, for Demon Blades to work, it needs to work like Enhancement Shaman's Maelstrom generation, where every auto attack deals some extra shadow damage in this case. Every auto attack generates a random amount of Fury, right? It should have like a range, like 6 to 10 or 6 to 12 or something like that. So you have a smooth build, and then you spend it all. Because with this chance, it's ridiculous. Insatiable Hunger, which is quite good, is essentially the legendary ring, the Fury of the Half Giants, rolled in baseline. Now, this does not increase the base amount that Demon's Bite gives you. So Demon's Bite, I didn't go over it unchanged, right? It generates 20-30 Fury without Insatiable Hunger, and it generates 20-40 with Insatiable Hunger. This means that on average, you will be gaining roughly 5 more Fury per Demon's Bite. Now, you can get really lucky, and you can Demon's Bite twice at 40. There's 36. There's another high one, right? You can get, that was 36 and 35 back-to-back, and then all of a sudden you have enough here. So it does speed up the rotation because it does, over the course of an encounter, lessen the amount of globals you have to use in Demon's Bite, because on average it will give you more per use. So, but between Immolation Aura's rotational build over time and Insatiable Hunger is essentially rolled in the ring in baseline. These are your these two tiers all about building Fury and how you build them. So, Trail of Ruin is new. It just puts a Chaos Damage bleed, essentially. Chaos Damage dot over 4 seconds from the final hit of Blade Dance, which just hits at the very end of it. Boom, boom, wow, there it is. So it is Chaos Damage, so it will scale with your Mastery. Fel Mastery is just double damage on Fel Rush, which obviously does scale with your Mastery as well. It does Chaos Damage. Fel Barrage is basically Fury of the Illidari. It is more or less your artifact weapon. The new ability you gained, right? You throw your glaives around you and then it explodes. So Fel Barrage was moved up here. It doesn't have all the weird convoluted madness and cooldown reduction shenanigans that it has on live right now. 1 minute cooldown. Use unleash a torrent of Fel energy for 3 seconds, not hasted by the haste stat. And it deals that much damage. The tooltip right now is probably overbuffed. It's ridiculous. It's way too powerful in this tier right now, but that of course numbers later on. It's an 8-yard AoE. And it hits every single target for that much. It is a 3-second channel though. You can move while channeling, but you can't do anything else while channeling it, of course. But as you see here, this is 4 targets. Yeah. But this essentially is Fury of the Illidari rolled into a talent, where instead of just dropping it and it spins and then blows up, you have to then channel it. But that means there are implications with debuffing things later on. Netherwalk remains the same, Desperate Instincts remains the same, and Soul Rending has been changed quite significantly. So this goes back to the no longer having 100% leech during meta. Meta has 30% leech baseline. Go over that tooltip real quick here. So with 30% leech baseline, you get the extra 10% in meta now. So you go from 20 to 30, not 30 to 100. But you get 10% leech multiplicative outside all the time. So this will, of course, stack with it. You'll go to 40% because the 30 is additive. The 10% increase is multiplicative. So if you get lucky enough to get any tertiary leech on your gear, Soul Rending will, of course, boost that by 10%. So this tier now competes well because Desperate Instincts does give you a 50% damage reduction that lasts for 10 seconds on a 50-second cooldown. It does have the automatic whole blur trigger, and Netherwalk, of course, has the immunity. So finding the use of when to actually change your survivability talent could very well be a lot more. Do I need to survive these one-shot mechanics more often? Take DI. Do I not need that? Is there an aura that's always damaging me? Take Soul Rending. Are there any things to immune and do funny things like with the Eminar Bridge? Take Netherwalk. There are choices now in when you take your defensives, not just, I want to be immune to damage when I'm meta every 2 minutes. That's all it is on live right now, right, with DI, or I'm going to cheese the bridge. That's your only choice, right? So, interesting thought there. I'll bounce down here to your CC tier, because you see Fel Eruption down here. Fel Eruption was removed for Vengeance. It's only here for Havoc, but you still have the single target stun. It's a 4-second stun in a 20-yard range. Costs 10 Fury, does chaos damage, but it is purely a stun now. it is no longer the double damage single target nuke that it is against immune targets to stun. It is just a single target stun. Ranged single target stun. Master of the Glaive does not give you more glaive charges. It just gives you the 50% snare on the 3 targets hit by the glaive. So the extra gap closer maybe or so, or if you need to kite stuff. Unleash Power is still the removal of the fury cost of Chaos Nova and reduces the cooldown by 33%. So again, not as powerful as it is right now, not a stun, but a 40-second cooldown, 5-second AoE disorient or AoE interrupt is still going to be powerful because of how the game is changing. And you can always just Fel Rush away, Chaos Nova something, and have it be disoriented for 5 seconds, and then Fel Rush back to your other target to lock that target down, lock some caster, some ranged minion, the healer in your islands group, right? You can still do that, just don't break it with any damage. There's not a lot of residual damage you're going to have yourself. There's no bloodbath, there's no dots you have outside of one, Trail of Ruin. So you're not going to break yourself, it's other people breaking your disorient against you. Which, of course, that just comes down to, hey, don't hit my disorient, okay? Don't hit my stun. And you can always unleash power into imprison on demons, beasts, or humanoids, so you can still layer the CC. That's still very much there. Oh gosh. The eyes of Gul'dan! They're so loud. I'm so far away from them too, but they're bugged. They're very, very, very loud when you get multiple of them from the demon portal. Alright, so your bottom tier, your 110s. Nemesis, unchanged, still has the skill cap of putting it on a beast, killing that beast, then gaining the damage to all beasts for a minute, or however long you have left. Momentum, I said prepared is gone, but prepared has changed, so momentum now is in the prepared is added into the new momentum window. So Fel Rush gives you the 6-second window up from 4 of 15% damage amp down from 20. And VR reduces its cooldown by 5 seconds, and it gives you 100 fury over 10 seconds if it damages one enemy. You have to hit someone with the actual physical damage hit. And then Demonic still is the I-beam, causes you to enter a demon form for 8 seconds after it finishes dealing damage. So all of that said now, there's a couple different builds here. I can't really show up the momentum build that well because of just this. This guy has collision. I can't do the thing. Whatever, it's fine. Well, let's look at the Nemesis build first off here. Because this build is sort of the everything in the 1 minute cooldown window kind of a deal. And I have skipped a tier on purpose because the 106 tier is very hindering on what you build in 110. So we're going to take Nemesis right off the bat. We're going to make a Burst Havoc Demon Hunter build. So Nemesis, right? We'll take Dark Slash, which is new. This is one of your new abilities. Dark Slash, I'll put this over here. Do this and this. Dark Slash is essentially a Colossus Smash / Judgment / Earth and Spike window for Havoc. A 20-second cooldown that doesn't cost anything. You slash the enemy target for physical damage and increase the damage done by your Chaos Strike or Annihilation by 40% for 8 seconds. Okay, we're doing bursty stuff, so Dark Slash makes sense there. First Blood is unchanged, and Cycle of Hatred is the cooldown reduction on meta from your shoulders made as a talent. But unless you can actually get enough Chaos Strike hits that refund to get the 3-second cooldown, right now Cycle of Hatred feels very weak. We'll take Dark Slash, right? We'll take Fel Barrage, because we're looking at burst window stuff. We'll keep Insatiable Hunger, and we'll take Blind Fury. So now, this build will sort of look like this, where you'll start the fight off, and you'll probably Fel Rush in, you'll pre-pot Fel Rush in. You want to hit one, I didn't hit 30. You want to hit at least, we're going to pause, you want to hit at least 30 Fury for your I-beam. Then you can immediately Nemesis, Fel Barrage, because Fel Barrage always casts for 3 seconds. We'll go into meta, we'll I-beam, we'll fill this up, we'll Dark Slash, and then we'll start going away. Yeah. Can I get... Yeah. When you're in meta in this form, you will get 2 uses of Dark Slash. So you get 1 at the start and 1 towards the end. So make sure we pool real quick here. And I probably could have hit a VR there. Or not a VR, but a Death Sweep. So we'll do our second Dark Slash in this window. 1 more. Right when you end, you'll have Dark Slash up for a moment. You want to bottom out at least 2. Yeah, not that good. You can then immediately hit this again. You'll rebuild, and then you're right back to your Dark Slash. I probably could have waited a GCD on that. Right again to a Dark Slash, still in the Nemesis window. Right, for 4 more seconds to get 2 more in there, and there you're done. Right, and that's like the 1 minute theoretical Nemesis window. You'll get 3 Dark Slashes, 2 inside meta, 1 outside of it. You'll get 2 Blind Fury hits, 1 to engage the Metamorphosis form, and 1 right when Metamorphosis ends to time back up with another Dark Slash window to fill your Fury bar back up to again hit more Chaos Slashes. And right when that all ends, you can then hit Chaos. You can hit Fel Barrage again, just for more damage, right? Because it doesn't scale with haste, but it would scale, of course, with the Nemesis snapshot window. Snapshot, I guess. Light snapshot. It's a debuff. And of course, if you can kill like a Scorpion on Scorpion, and then you get the Nemesis buff to everything. Again, Fel Barrage, AoEs all around you within 8 yards. And if you deal 25% more damage to all beasts for the duration of an encounter, or all humanoids or whatever, then again, Fel Barrage will... Just don't cast Fel Barrage in Metamorphosis because it doesn't get any faster, so it's just slowing you down. But that's sort of what it looks like with this. It's a little bit slower, but it's very focused on this Dark Slash combo. Now, still staying with this Nemesis Metamorphosis build, let's change over to First Blood Trail of Ruin. We go for Fel Barrage to come off cooldown. So First Blood means you're going to rotate your Death Sweeps in. You're going to take Dark Slash off your bars. And then you'll grab Trail of Ruin, giving you that Chaos damage dot whenever you hit your Death Sweeps, which again removes Fel Barrage. This is very much more a single target style. Obviously, Trail of Ruin AoEs, but very lightly. And First Blood is just barely better than hitting a Chaos Strike, but it's weaker than a Death Sweep baseline. But again, it costs 15 Fury down from 40, so it's more damage per Fury. So in this build, the same sort of thing will happen where you'll Nemesis, and then you can just you have to have enough Fury. You have to at least hit like 1 Demon's Bite, which again, if Insatiable Hunger gives you enough, 33 right there, then you're good. You're hitting 1 or 2 regardless, because you need to have at least 30 Fury to hit the I-Beam. That's just how this will work. So that will be how it is overall on how this works. Once my cooldown comes back up here, we'll jump back in. But the overall amount of GCDs, I guess people were talking about on stream today about how the simplification of Havoc is good and bad, because they're removing a little bit more of the power into the overall kit, right? Like with Dark Slash, something like that, with Fel Barrage, these things that don't matter in meta. And then, of course, the momentum style, right? That has nothing to do with Metamorphosis really anyway. And momentum in meta is going to be really awkward. I'm not going to show that off. We tried testing it on the VOD. Like, the momentum style of play when you're in Metamorphosis is very wonky, because you can't just turret damage. You have to, like, do a whole moving stuff, and you lose some uptime, so it's kind of weird. Whereas, like, obviously, Demonic and Nemesis are fine with that. But so now, again, we'll go with Blind Fury, Trail of Ruin, First Blood, Nemesis, and you're sort of used to what this rotation will look like. Right, so we'll do that on the global cooldown, so you want to cast it beforehand. But Death Sweeping into this, and then right into your I-Beam. There you go again. Do that. You still have to weave in your Demon Bites, of course. But you will basically want to cap up so you can't 2 in a row, 1 more. A little bit of lag on the alpha right now, so the GCD is a little bit sluggish. 1 more, like there, we got 2 more seconds left, probably 1 more. Oh, damn. I rolled like 38 Fury there. That's just, of course, going to be the random RNG nature of it, too. But I think you're still, of course, a Nemesis for a little while longer. So then, again, you'll hit another I-Beam. And then you can keep rotating in, again, because, again, the math on First Blood and Trail of Ruin is more damage per hit than your Chaos Strike. So, of course, it also gives you a button to hit once you're lower than the Chaos Strike window because of the cost of... So you can always just build, hit it, and then build again. So a little bit more of a wiggle room on how the rotation goes between your 3 to 4 core abilities there. I say 3 to 4 because obviously you only have I-Beam twice a minute. But that could also be a synergy there too, both within this Nemesis style of play. Now, let's look, well, in a moment, at momentum. So Momentum has two different builds that we think work out well. You have a First Blood Fel Mastery style, and you're going to take Immolation Aura and Fel Blade almost every single time with this build regardless. So the First Blood Fel Mastery, this is going to be more of a rotational style where you can only fit... Let me get Momentum off here. Momentum has 6 seconds of duration now, not 4. That means that you have 4.5 seconds on the regular global cooldown to interact with the Momentum window. That's 3 globals, right? As you'll gain more, you'll probably be able to fit 4 globals in there because, again, the lower global cooldown on activating and getting in the Momentum window because the global is less on Fel Rush, but then, of course, you have more time. So it's going to be still like 3 globals, depending on lag. But with this, there's 2 parts of the Momentum build here. So Fel Blade won't be used as often here because I'll show you why. So if you start off here, you have sort of this style where on your... Oops, I didn't hit Immolation. When you hit Immolation, you combined Immolation's generation with the VR window. So you get a ton, you get 180 Fury over 10 seconds. Or you have the Fel Rush away, Fel Blade back window, and that's how that would work. And then again, of course, you want to put up Immolation and then VR and then Fel Rush back in. And you want to snapshot a Eye Beam in there. Weave in your First Bloods, and then you're done, right? And then you can Fel Rush away, and then Fel Blade back, right? Don't want to hit Fel Blade on cooldown. Its damage is actually not great. You can do that again. Do one of those back. But the 50 Fury generation feels really good there. We got the Immolation Aura. We'll do this, and we'll come back. So if you missed and liked this style, this mobility play style, it's definitely coming back. Get that snapshot in there with the Eye Beam and then 1 First Blood. There we go. A couple of seconds left on Immolation, so we'll sort of wait here. Unless we get a proc, we'll do this. Go back. One of these. Wait for the cooldown. We'll put up Immolation, then VR, then go back in. So there's like 2. It's like an A and a B, right? You basically have the Immolation VR Fel Rush, or you have the Fel Rush Fel Blade. And then depending on the 4.5 seconds you have there, you'll put an Eye Beam and something else, or you'll put a First Blood and 2 Chaos Strikes, or Chaos Strike and 2 First Bloods, or First Blood, Chaos Strike, First Blood, depending on haste, right? Depending on cooldowns, depending on your weaving, on how to keep up this 6-second window. But it flows pretty significantly. Like, it keeps you on your toes, right? You're going to be always working on this. Side note, I'm not going to show off nor really discuss the whole animation canceling madness you can still do with Fel Rush. You totally can. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. You figure it out. Whatever. If you're doing Fel Rush on a boss, you never Fel Rush forward through the boss, ever. You make an X behind the boss, or if the boss's hitbox is big enough, you'll be going from one side and you Fel Rush through their hitbox like that. Because you never want to be out of melee range. So again, I'm out of melee range now. This hitbox is like that tiny, right? So always make an X if they have a small hitbox where you'll sort of go from like a back left to a back right. This guy, again, has collision for some reason because this doodad does. So you can't see me go like an X pattern because it breaks. So again, make your small X so you stay in melee range so you can just pivot and be there. Also, remember that the disconnect bug is probably still there, where if you turn your camera too fast after Fel Rushing, you DC. So that's fun. But the Momentum playstyle is definitely there. As the scuttlebutt in the chat today, Momentum right now is the best option based on alpha numbers. So we'll see if Nemesis and Demonic get buffed. But that works. Or you take Dark Slash. Now, this adds a bit of a thought bubble that you can take Blind Fury or Demonic Appetite in Dark Slash because you're going to prioritize, obviously, Chaos Striking. Again, I think Immolation Aura is just way too powerful here. Insatiable Hunger is probably fine, but I think the combining of that, like, A-B rotation momentum is way too strong. But that's just me. But Demonic Appetite could be good here, but you do lose the Fel Rush, Fel Blade in combination. So depending on numbers, depending on hitbox, depending on what you're doing, that might not work better. So again, we'll do this, and we'll do that, and we'll go in, and then we'll Dark Slash, right? Because you have so much Fury generation. Then we'll do one of these, and one of these, and go right back in. You can kind of time it to keep the 6-second window and the Dark Slash window. It's possible, but Dark Slash is only 8 seconds, right? So it's a really, really, really tiny window of time. But again, if you do one of these, oh, sorry, whoops. And then one of the, whoops. Barely out of melee range there because the damn melee range is too small. You gain so much Fury, you can just spam Chaos Strike into this window. And then again, go out here, go back in, hit your I-beam. Right? But again, you're not hitting any First Bloods at all, right? You can hit a random Fel Blade if you get a reset here. Wait for Immolation to come back off cooldown. Hit that, hit this, back in. There we go. And again, I'm not going to show off momentum with Demon with using Metamorphosis because it's way too awkward. I don't know how to like maximize its potential properly enough. We'll just be aggressive with the 2 there. But yeah, momentum is definitely there. A little bit of combinational thing if you want to snapshot more stuff into the Dark Slash window or you want to just weave in some First Bloods. Because, I don't know, the damage difference here may be really, really close. If Dark Slash is that much more powerful, they may just nerf it or buff First Blood, or I think they should buff Cycle of Hatred, because unless you're going to get a lot of cooldown reduction, this is not very good. And then there's Demonic. Demonic, case in point, has one build, most likely. So Demonic has probably just Fel Barrage for ease of use, or you can take Trail of Ruin because you'll be in the Demonic window and you can sort of weave in a Death Sweep here and there. But Demonic is basically going to be this. So you want the extra Fury generation. We try with Immolation Aura, it's just too slow. So you want the Fury, you want your I-beam, and you Dark Slash right into Annihilations. Just, I mean, that's case in point. That's all it's going to be. And then you can just fill with your Fel Barrage here and there, right? And then every 30 seconds, you hit Demonic, and you go right back into it again. You will delay your Dark Slashes to always sync up with your I-beam, because it's just way too much extra damage, right? So again, we got one more I-beam coming up here. We'll do one more of these. We'll cap our Fury, but we can't really stop that. And then a Dark Slash, right back into more Annihilates. And again, you'll do the same thing when you actually hard cast Metamorphosis anyway. You'll just build, right, to have the I-beam energy, and then you'll just meta, you'll I-beam, you'll Dark Slash, and you'll go crazy, right? You'll have 2 Dark Slashes within 1 meta window. So, sort of a simplified version of the Nemesis window, but you'll have the Demonic window more often, right? So the 110 talents have a twice a minute, 8-second change to your rotation because you're demonicking every 30 seconds. Momentum has the quite frenetic in and out every roughly 8 to 10 seconds or so, depending on your cooldowns, that A and B teeter-totter. And Nemesis sort of has that more standard, put all the burst into that 1 minute cooldown overall window. Because Nemesis obviously will sync up on the pull with Metamorphosis. You'll have Nemesis meta, they'll have Nemesis, but every time you'll have a Fel Barrage. They'll have Nemesis meta, because 4 minute cooldown baseline, right? So you'll sync at those certain moments. There was talk about if Cycle of Hatred was like 4 or 5 second cooldown and your Metamorphosis could actually get down to a 2 minute or 2.5 minute cooldown, then you could Nemesis and Cycle of Hatred every 2 minutes. You would just sort of delay Nemesis to sync up with your Cycle of Hatred cooldown Metamorphosis, but we'll see if that's a thing. But overall, there's like 4.5, 4.5 builds here that you can easily put together depending on where numbers lie, or hopefully depending on what kind of encounters you can spec into. Because Momentum, if it's the best talent and Dark Slash is the best talent, but there are fights like Kill Jaden, where you have these super dumb intermission periods where you're doing nothing, Momentum just loses a lot of its power. Because Momentum is a much higher upkeep, always going kind of a thing. Demonic loses less power because of the 30-second cooldown to actually activate Demonic. But then Nemesis stays really strong because the Nemesis 1 minute burn window is possible on fights like Kill Jaden because you can reliably do it easily. And that's my hope for Havoc. If you have enjoyed this walkthrough, let me know what your thoughts are down below. Of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel right here to keep up to date with all of the testing I'll be doing in the future. Check out the entire 4-hour VOD or listen to it in the background like a radio show once I put that up on YouTube. You can go check that out if you'd like. But we'll see how this works. I played a lot of Havoc. I enjoy it. I think a lot of these build possibilities look better than the pigeonholing you have on live, barring numbers tuning. Again, if you want to support the channel and get a little Illidan shirt by Faye Bellina, you can go check out the merch link down below. Those are on sale right now, of course. Oh boy, we'll see how this works out. Let me know down below if you like the new Havoc and what you think about it and how stoked you are to have Torment back. But we'll see how this works. Thank you all very much for watching and or listening, and I will see you all in the next first pass video during the Battle for Azeroth Alpha.